So, hi everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Joining me on the call today is our CEO of Web Spiders, that's Sid. Hi Sid, how are you?
Hey, good, Amy. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. We've got
Yeah,
sunshine here in London, so it's
yeah,
it's nice, the start of spring and Easter for us.
absolutely. Yeah, it's
Indeed.
almost Friday.
It is, yes, nearly there. So it's great to be talking to you today, and thank you for everyone who's joining us from wherever you are. I hope that you have the sunshine shining on you too. So today we're going to be talking about basically graduating from Zoom, Zoom webinars to Zoom virtual events. And it's a really hot topic right now. We all know that Zoom is a really robust and powerful conferencing platform. And it's really good to use for one-off trainings, knowledge sharing, kind of meetings. But a lot of brands are looking to move on to fully fledged kind of virtual events on a large scale or a medium scale, and need something extra to really to really do a proper virtual event and use a platform. So basically, Web Spiders and E2M have worked really hard during the last year to bring together our knowledge, our experience, our technical expertise, and we basically had to adapt to the times and the pandemic. The whole world came to a standstill and we've had to go virtual, and we had a lot of our past clients coming to us not wanting to cancel or postpone their events, and you know, we thought we have to do something, we have to help. So that was when E2M on Air was born. So March last year, we all came together, and it's been a huge success. So it's now the leading video first virtual event platform out there. We've now powered over 50 events. Most recently, one of our clients is Hush Blackwell, that we did a 15-day long retreat, which was a huge success. And it really maximized the full potential of the virtual event and allowed it to go ahead, and it went really well. We want to really recreate that buzz, that excitement, the capacity of the event that you could get in the in-person events. And going out of this pandemic, coming out of it and going forward, we will be going into a more hybrid mode. So it's going to be really interesting to chat to you today, Sid, to find out, you know, about your partnership with Zoom, and how you've found the kind of the last year working virtually, and how the platform E2M can really help leverage events, virtual
Yeah,
events, and going
absolutely.
forward.
Thanks for that, Amy. And I think today we are going to be very focused on a specific aspect of virtual events or streaming for corporate engagement, which is using Zoom.
Mm.
And we would try and understand, you know, versus using a one-off Zoom webinar, how do you graduate from that to an event? So this is like what you see here is like a table of things that you could do with a full-fledged Zoom event versus a Zoom webinar.
Yeah.
But what I'll do is I'll go right in and
Yeah,
we'll
please
start
do, please
discussing.
do. I
Yeah,
believe we've got 10
yeah,
points, 10 ways to
yeah,
graduate. So I'm really looking forward to
absolutely.
learning today. Thank you.
Absolutely, yeah. So we have 10 ways to do that, and so let's start. I think one of the core things, Amy, is the whole concept of a single session versus a multi-session. Now, if
Yeah.
you look at an event inherently, traditionally, it's always multiple sessions, either back to back, or they are spread across the day. Or, for example, in the case study of Hush that you mentioned, it was across 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Now, now, the way Zoom works is that you would be emailing different links or coming back, and there is no really home for multiple sessions.
Mm.
So what I mean to say is, like, if you see this, for example, right, this is actually a screenshot from our own internal, as you know, daily morning check-ins, right? So every day, in the morning we have a morning check-in. So inherently there are multiple sessions, and I think Zoom as a single session, whether it's a webinar or a meeting, is on its own. It does not, map to an event roadmap or an event agenda format.
Mm.
This is another an actual event where you see that not only are there, events, one after the other, but then again you have parallel tracks, which are again very common in events.
So they're
Now
happening at the
imagine,
same time.
yeah, yeah. So you can select which one to go. So it could be, track A, track B, based on topics or industry, and so on and so forth. And you could have more than two. You could have, you could have 10, for example.
Yeah.
If you go to a Salesforce conference, which is probably one of the largest conferences, they have something like 25 tracks at the same time in different hotels.
Wow.
Yeah, South by Southwest has a similar structure.
So
Now
to
that,
achieve
yeah,
that virtually is really something.
yeah, and it has to go virtual because it is the world has learned that virtual is not a replacement; it is a new form of engagement.
Yeah.
So, what is happening is the collective number of engagement opportunities for B2B brands, for B2C brands, is just exploding.
Mm.
And and but the core essence of how event planners manage an event is similar. So again, you see from here that you have multiple, and again, a webinar, a one-off, Zoom webinar cannot handle such kind of a session. This is another example of what I was speaking, where not only do you have parallel sessions, but they could be of different formats. So as an example, if you see, there is an on demand, at the same time there's a live panel,
Mm.
right? And there could be a round table as well. So there are different formats. This is another one, um, where it's straightforward, sequential. um, so this is one one reason, one of the 10 reasons we are going to discuss. You need to graduate to a virtual event from a simple one-off webinar, right? Handling multiple sessions. I
Yeah.
think this is really key, as one of the points. Let me jump to the next one. Now, the other thing, Amy, that the point number two, so we're going to cover 10 points,
Mhm.
is that, you've been in the event industry for a long time, and I've done my share.
Yeah.
And I think we all realize that, you don't go to a conference venue or a hotel ballroom which looks exactly what it was looking yesterday when you have an event, right? You brand it. I think,
Absolutely.
whether it's the Excel Center, or whether it's the Javits, or whether it's, the Moscone in San Francisco, whenever there's an event, it has to be branded.
Of
The
course.
problem, the problem with just the Zoom webinar is there's literally zero branding opportunity. Now, that's not only important for getting the feel of an event, getting the feel, but it's also important sometimes for monetize. It's been many times for monetization, because a lot of these sponsors pay for premium positions. So if you're trying to have an event where when you're trying to monetize the event, you cannot do that by default in Zoom. At the same time, if you even if it's a private event, you still want the culture, the theme. Most events have some form of a theme, that some form of a vision around which they're telling the attendees to get together.
Mm.
Now, a black screen with squares of people talking is is not always the best way to communicate that. So I'll just show you some examples. Now, this was, the Breast Cancer Research Foundation, where this is the lobby when they enter.
It's
This
very
is another,
eye-catching.
yeah. So you don't really expect this from Zoom ordinarily. Zoom is probably one of the best actually today. It has risen above the traditional Cisco's of the world, the WebExes of the world. But using an event platform like E2M, you can still have the robustness of Zoom, but still have this branding opportunities.
Sure. And this feels like the in-person experience. This feels like looks and feels like a
Yeah,
real hobby.
yeah. And in fact, in our next quarter's roadmap, where we have Unity apps, you actually go around, you actually travel in like a game as
Mm.
well. Yeah. And there we use video SDKs to get inline. So it's really beautiful. It really gives you, it engages you. At the end of the day, I think it's about engagement.
Yeah.
Uh, I'll show you another one. These are all actual lobby screenshots. This was for an education university event. And again, this was another one. I mean, we can go on and on, but I guess you get the message that, you know, this is what an event is.
Yeah.
And you so so it's not just about streaming, it is about so many different things. um, so this is the second point why you would want to graduate from a simple webinar um, to the whole experience.
Sure.
And most of our attendees today are practitioners, they know the industry, so I'm not going to go into the basics. And considering it's a quick 45-minute one and we have 10 points to cover, which means about 4 minutes each roughly, plus our chit chat time. And what we're going to do is answer questions as well as they come in. So I can see that I just got a pop-up.
Yeah, we have
uh,
one now.
yeah, could you is that could
Of course. Would you like me to read it out to you?
Yeah. If it's a
Okay.
valid question, yeah.
Sure. So the attendee is asking if these are examples that we're showing purchasing a platform package from E2M, then
Yes.
integrating Zoom for the live sessions.
Yeah. So the last point, what I will say is that you don't, because we are an ISV partner with Zoom, you don't need to bring in your own Zoom license. We automatically integrate with Zoom and provision Zoom on demand. So if it's 1,000-person meeting or a 50,000-person webinar, we automatically go to Zoom in the backend. So we have API access to Zoom, which regular enterprise customers don't have, and and so we can provision it right away. And all the settings that you have on E2M, for example, the host, the attendees, all those settings in real time get passed on to the Zoom client. So yeah, you don't. It's a seamless, no IT from you. But yeah, you have to. E2M is what you subscribe, and then you get Zoom automatically. Yeah, I hope that helps.
Thank you. Thanks for your
But
questions as
yeah,
well.
and please do ask in between. Yeah, we really want to make it productive. You're spending 40, 50 up to an hour with us today, and we really want you to take home something that you didn't know before this session. So we really hope that it's really for you to ask as many questions as you can, and uh, take it forward from there. So please do not hesitate in asking questions in between. So again, this is very familiar to you, right? This is the regular. But what happens is that when you're using the app version, this gets automatically instantiated, right? So this is the regular Zoom version, right? In fact, exactly what we're doing right now
Yeah.
on as a webinar. And this is the web version. So what happens with E2M, you can mix and match web and Zoom options. And this is a designer web. So this is not the same web that you see or if you're having a Zoom web client. So in situations where you do not want them to download the Zoom app, and you want additional forms of engagement and branding. So let me give you an example. So I guess, Amy, this gentleman is very familiar on the right.
Yeah.
Tony Fauci. Uh, he's been, in the US here. He's sort of the guy to go for COVID advice.
Right.
And so he was on the E2M platform, and you can see that there is very nice branding on the top, right?
Mm. Yeah, it
So
doesn't look like Zoom here.
yeah. So you have the option of both web as well as, let's say if you have an internal meeting and you're not really concerned about branding, you can still use the app or the web.
Hmm.
And this kind of a web you do not get in the Zoom web client. So again, this is another example. Um, he's also pretty famous. If you are in the, he was Mr. Ajit Pai. He's the FCC commissioner. He was the chairman. I think he's just retired, and so he was a big, he was involved in the net neutrality kind of thing. So he was again on the platform. Again, they are using the web. So it's another example of how you could use the web. So yeah, so this was point number three. The ability to have designer, advanced web, and the Zoom app
Mm.
uh, as well. And in fact, there's a third option which I will show you. Is we work with some uh, uh, large enterprise customers who use our product across the year as a community. So what it means is that they not only do, hundreds of events during the year, but even between two events, the attendees are engaging. So in that case, what we do have is, instead of the Zoom app, Amy, you'll be amazed, they actually have their own branded app. So let's say you are from, you know, let's say Acme Inc., which is the most popular alias company in the world
Yeah.
from Windows time. So let's say you're from Acme Inc. So you would go to the App Store and actually download Acme Inc. as
Okay.
your app. It would still have Zoom embedded inside the app, but you wouldn't know.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
it would be your company's app.
that's
So
impressive.
so what happens is that E2M becomes a community platform for the whole year,
Mm,
and in that year you can do multiple events.
sure.
So some of our customers who subscribe to our community platform with multiple events get that option.
That's great.
Yeah. Roundtables. So now what happens, Amy, is that roundtables in terms of Zoom would be a meeting, right? So this is the webinar version of Zoom, and you have meetings which everybody knows and everybody understands.
Yeah.
Now what we're trying to do is, in an event, you're trying to get, sorry, I think I skipped something here. Okay, sorry about that. Yeah. Me. Yeah.
Yeah, and so roundtables are just so popular in in-person events. That's where
Yeah.
most of the conversations happen, and one-to-one meetings are booked from that. So you can achieve that through E2M as well from Zoom.
Yeah, and the fact is that when you're having one Zoom meeting, you cannot really. It's not very easy for you to hop on to different tables,
Yeah.
or you cannot be dynamically assigned to one table and then after 5 minutes get assigned to another table.
Mm.
So what happens is that using E2M, you have something like that, where you could connect to any table that you want. So, as an example, we had, there was this Hollywood Professionals Association that recently used our product, where they were actually having, I think about 35 or 40 roundtables at any point live, and then you could jump in at any table. You can switch tables at will.
Mm.
So that really offers that ability for you to have this round table, which could be pre-assigned. So you could be pre-assigned to certain topics based on your department or based on your registration type, or it could be an open round table, right? So it's free for everybody.
And
So
people can enter as sort of spectators as well as because obviously roundtables are great for discussing everybody as a guest in that situation. But if there's one with sort of a celebrity or an industry expert, they can still
yeah,
enter.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we have something known as a spectator mode,
Okay.
where, let's say, because usually what you want to do is not make, I mean, we can, on the web, roundtables can be as large as 12 people. That's
Yeah.
a soft limit, and then we keep 16 actually, but we keep 12 and 4 reserved for screen share in case 4 people want to screen share at the same time. But what happens is that, and in Zoom you can have about, because if you use their app, you can have about 1,000.
Yeah.
But that's when you have the app.
Amazing.
But the core difference is that you need to be able to hop in and hop out
Yeah.
very easily, and that's how. And you could be pre-assigned and open. So
Yeah.
these are
And
the things
that's
that.
through Zoom, not through the web. The jumping in and out is through the Zoom.
Yeah, so you would use the Zoom app, as in the desktop app, only when you want large meetings. If you have smaller meetings, then you should use the web version,
Sure.
which looks so cool and nice, as you can see here. This is actually for a school.
Yeah.
This is another one where a screen is being shared, and they're discussing about design and design thinking, etc.
I see.
And the spectators, what happens is that if it's a popular speaker, let's say you have, I don't know who's the most popular speaker today. Let's say, who would be, Amy? Who would be the most
Oh my
popular
goodness.
speaker?
You could have, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg. He's
Oh, well, he's
very
I think he's I would say Elon Musk is the most popular speaker
Elon Musk,
today.
definitely.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's say he's on a round table and he has 7, 8 people, he's speaking to 7, 8 people one on one. There are so many people in line to speak to him as well.
Yeah.
Now you don't want them to just go away, but you would, so that's why we have the spectate mode option as well.
Sure. attendees would definitely appreciate that, if just to be
Yeah,
able to listen in and watch.
yeah, absolutely. So moving on, yeah, I think we're doing okay with time. Uh,
Yeah.
the other thing that events really have, Amy, is an expo. Some form of an expo. Now, you could either have an event which is by default a large expo, let's say like a CES, or there's so many trade shows which are focused on an exhibition, right? And
Yeah.
then they have a side conference. Uh, or you might have predominantly a conference, let's say like a South, let's say, let's say the Apple conference, right? The Worldwide Developer Conference. And then you have a side expo. And then there are some large conferences like South by Southwest, which are equal, like 50% expo and 50% conferences, both are valuable.
Mm.
So you don't again have the concept of booths, right? You don't have the concept by default in Zoom webinar. So what you want to do is when you log in, you want to go to a booth, you want to, then go and attend a session, then come back to a booth, and then within the booth, have a Zoom conversation with the booth staff.
Yeah.
But you're not leaving the context. That's the whole idea.
Mm.
So this is again an example how you might have a Zoom. So we have different kinds of lobbies. This is one, and then you can have a larger lobby where you can display, say, 30 or 40 people at the same time. And then when you go in, you see that there's one specific booth, and on the right, what you see is networking. If you click that, you would actually get into a meeting, a video meeting
Sure.
with the booth staff. Yeah. And
Yeah.
you could even do one-to-one. So if you have a prior appointment, you have the option to do that as well. So again, you are using Zoom very situationally,
Mm.
and you're using Zoom many, many times. It's like literally at one point, you have 300 Zoom sessions going on in an event at any point.
Yeah.
uh, because because there are people talking in a round table, there are people speaking in booths, there are people attending different tracks and sessions. uh, all of that is happening.
Yeah.
So you cannot, if you just have one session, then fine, you can do with a standard Zoom meeting license or a webinar license, whatever be it. But if you're looking at an engagement which is going on for anywhere from 3 hours to one day to, nowadays we are doing events as large as 30 days.
Sure.
uh, you need that home, you need an event home, you need the venue.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
And this looks exactly how you would have your real event. The opportunity to chat to all of the booth staff. It's like you're walking straight up to a booth, ready
yeah,
to have a live conversation. It's great. It just really
yeah.
replicates that in-person experience as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. This is another example. This is another recent client that used us. They're a very large law firm, and they had a retreat for 1,500 people, employees, uh, over 3 weeks.
Mm.
And this was the first time they were doing that, and it was a smashing success. And what we hear back from them is that, of course, they initially thought they have to go virtual because of the current situation, but now they're going to make it a part of their annual, engagement, HR, and marketing agenda for, perpetually, regardless, because there are so many efficiencies and which you cannot achieve. I mean, they would be in person.
Yeah.
So what we are seeing is that, Amy, initially we thought that hybrid would actually be something that is both online and offline.
Yeah.
At the moment, what we are seeing is that it's not really that. It's more like you're going to keep having in person, but you're going to keep having virtual. At some point, yes, they will, share some live sessions together,
Yeah.
but they're going to happen in parallel. It's probably the same way that, you watch Netflix, but you would still go to a theater to watch a movie, and
Yeah.
both will continue.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. There's definitely room for both, and there's
yeah,
benefits to having the option of both going forward.
absolutely. The other things is that, you don't, in a meeting, or sorry, in an event, Amy, you're typically looking at a number of one-to-one meetings, which can either be pre-scheduled or try your luck. Do some Vegas, what we call serendipity. And I have met so many people But the problem is, if you're based on luck, it is, when you make the luck go digital,
Mm.
it's luckier.
Yeah, definitely.
And if it's pre-booked, it's more efficient. So again, you know uh, you're trying to meet new people you've never met. So let me show you some examples. This is, of course, a meeting going on. um, and
And these one-to-one meetings can be
yeah,
spontaneously booked through either the expo booths that you've just
yeah,
showed us or the
yeah,
round tables,
yeah.
or they can be
Oh,
pre-booked by searching
yeah,
for people.
yeah, it's almost like a speed networking thing as well.
Yeah,
You just go and find someone who's willing to talk to you at that moment.
yeah,
So that as well. So this is an example of how you would book a meeting. And then the other person gets the request, they confirm, and then at the time of the meeting, you just go and say join meeting, and voila, you start a conversation. And
there and then, yeah, there and
yeah,
then.
there and then. And because it's Zoom, it'll work on your mobile phone, it'll work everywhere. And it'll create that connection.
Sure.
uh, yeah. The other big thing, I think, Amy, that a lot of people don't realize is that a lot of the virtual events that have been happening right now are pre-recorded, which are streamed as live. So, a lot of the Apple keynotes that you see, a lot of the uh, IT vendors who have been having virtual events, they're pre-recording, they're editing, and then they are streaming. Now that
Mm.
is not, it's possible on the default Zoom webinar, but it's not very easy when you have to share your screen and then you have to stream a video. Now that's fine if that video is part of your session, you're trying to show something as part of a session, but these are like standalone, so you want to schedule them at certain time. You
Yeah.
want to make sure that they're also available as on demand later.
Okay. Yeah.
So
For people to catch up if they
yeah,
miss a session.
absolutely. And then sometimes you may want to even stream them in parallel to YouTube and Facebook Live. So, so let me show you something. For example, this was again the Breast Cancer Research Foundation. We've done several events for them last year. And this is an example of how they were streaming a pre-recorded video in real time. So it was synced across all devices. It's not like YouTube where you can go back and forth. It's like broadcast, like TV.
You can't pause it. You can't
No.
fast
So it's
forward.
like it's like telly. It's essentially like a TV broadcast. But
Sure.
what they did was we for driving engagement they had a selfie photo wall. So people were sending their photos and they were being curated and streamed in real time.
Oh, that's
So
great.
and then what they were doing is they were alternating that with a text to donate. So we even have a text to donate module for nonprofits where they can text their donation to a number by SMS or WhatsApp, for example,
Mm.
and then they get a link back to pay, and then their donations actually stream in real time. Uh,
Ah, that's very
so it
clever.
so it encourages other donors who are watching the show to
Mm.
also donate.
Yeah.
And what they do is that they time it in such a way that, like for example, here as Carly is encouraging people to donate to the cause of breast cancer research, they switch from the photo wall to the text to donate message,
I see.
and then they can have pace setters, and then they can release in real time.
Yeah.
So it's uh, these things, of course, you cannot cannot do in Zoom by default. So there are a lot of engagement things, but then again, you know uh, by adding all of these elements, you really convert to a full-fledged event experience.
Absolutely. And you can have sort of social walls. It's all about everybody chatting, and
Yeah,
there's lots of different ways that you can do that, whether it's through
absolutely.
Zoom or through a social wall or through links to a social media,
Yeah,
or like this text to donate.
absolutely, absolutely. So moving on, to the eighth one. Hybrid is something. So of course, for hybrid is something where what we are seeing is that people are going to studios now and they're recording in person,
Mm.
but they're also having people remotely join it. I think 2021 will be a situation where, depending on where you are, it's either completely open, like for example in Singapore,
Mm.
the they are, I mean, they close the borders, but internally it's like, the regular life, because they're not having any new cases at all.
Oh, yeah.
So from that situation to, there are other cities and countries where it's on the second wave or the third wave, depending on where you are. So always, at least 2021 is expected to have this mixed bag based on
Absolutely.
where your event is. So again, using E2M, what you can do is you can plug in your Zoom feed with a real-time feed, what we call RTMP, and then combine that into a single view for the viewer. So you're seeing people live, as
Mhm.
well as you're seeing people coming in from Zoom, and they're mashed in. It's
Yes, so
slightly
you wouldn't
technical.
know, the
Yeah.
user would not notice. It's all seamless. Um, E2M does all of that for you.
Yeah. The E2M provides the RTMP service. We give them a guide on how do you do that. But this is an example of really extending Zoom into a totally different use case,
Sure.
of mixing it in parallel. And that's really popular, and you can see that it also restreams it to different locations. If it's a public event, then you could potentially do that.
Link it all.
Or yeah, or it could be private and just going on your E2M
Yeah, it's
platform.
really interesting. It's exciting times that we're able to do all of this and mash it together, and
Yeah,
going forward in kind of hybrid mode and having the options of all of this is just fantastic.
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there can be just one entire 3-hour session on how do you structure your RTMP feed and all that, but just to let people know that this is how they do that.
Yeah.
And this is just an example where, of course, it's a Zoom meeting going on, but again, it's being fed into E2M as a private meeting.
Yeah.
So viewers see it on the web browser, but the speakers are on uh, the Zoom client. So
Mm.
this is another way of, for example, if you have, say, an app, a Unity app or mobile app, or a different corporate app, and you want to embed Zoom in those apps.
Mhm.
One way of integration is where the speakers are using a regular Zoom client, and we are streaming it privately to your apps. So E2M provides that kind of infrastructure, and there's so many clients who are using that today.
Yeah.
So many clients, because then what happens is that the attendees don't need Zoom. They just use their gaming device, or they are using a regular web browser.
Yeah, so they don't have to sign in or do anything separately. It's all
Yeah,
seamless. It's all done for them.
absolutely. Yeah. The other thing that, of course, this is a smaller thing, but you've been to so many Zoom meetings and webinars, and one of the things is that you really, I think any event, its one objective is to learn something, right? To discover a new knowledge. But
Yeah.
I think an equal objective is to find new people or find new connections
Yeah.
that are relevant to your work or your business, etc.
Networking is a
And
huge part of
yeah,
these
and,
events.
and and you know that Zoom by default doesn't give you much other
Mm.
than names. You don't know their profile, you don't know their photographs for the most part, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
So this again, this is an example of how you know things come up, and how you can have an enriched speaker and attendee profile. This is another example of that, and as you can see, it looks beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things, one constant feedback we get from our customers is that, forget about technology, we want it because it looks beautiful. And I think, I mean, the technology is great and we love all that, but it should look nice. I
Of
think
course.
I think event planners are very creative people, as the event professionals, I should say. People in the event business, they're very, very creative, very professional.
Yeah.
For them, an extra full stop, an extra dot is a big issue.
Of
It's a
course.
it's a critical issue.
And the colors and
Yeah,
everything matching. It's
yeah,
a whole package, a whole experience, and it has to be
yeah,
pleasing to the eye.
absolutely. And so this is the experience that, for example, people would get on their daily call, on their daily meeting, or
Yeah.
their annual retreat,
Mm.
and the video would just automatically play within.
Yeah.
Or of course, you have the option of the app in case you're not on your desktop and you want it on your phone. But you can see why people get excited with design here.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And so you can click on them to have their bios. You can see.
Yeah, the bios, and then the and then the admin can decide whether they want to enable meeting options for people or just have their bios. For example, they could even enable send message if you
Yeah.
want them to be able to send a message, or they could enable request a meeting. So it can be event specific,
Yeah.
company specific, and it's very simple to configure on the back end. It's just
Yeah.
like a toggle on and off.
I see.
The other, so we come, I think 9:15. Yeah, so we're almost there. And again, I would encourage any questions, any chat on this. But one of the problems of, uh, in fact, we just licensed our platform to an edutech company in Singapore. One of their problems was, so they were a new company, and so they had teachers, like they have hundreds of tutors and teachers, and then they have all these customers, which are essentially students. They're K-12 students. And now the problem was, like they bought Zoom licenses separately, and then for every class they had to either get a Zoom license uniquely for each teacher, and
Mm.
even then they had to send links as the profile of the attendees change. So, for example, for a maths class for grade 6, you have 25 students, but maybe tomorrow there are a different set of students. So there was one administrator who was constantly sending Zoom links. Oh,
Oh,
it's,
gosh.
so, so imagine, so every day you have classes, right? You're attending a class every day. So it
Mm.
was like you were waiting for an email that, oh, today is your science class, and today is teacher B, and here is your Zoom link.
Mm.
Today is your class on Bitcoins, and
Yeah.
this is your Zoom link.
Yeah.
And there was one administrator who was managing Excel sheet. Okay, these are my Zoom accounts, and then and because they have hundreds of teachers going into thousands,
Mm.
they often thought that from a licensing point of view they wanted to share as well, that not just have. So they were changing passwords for a teacher, that giving that to another one,
Wow,
and
that's
then
a lot of
changing it
work.
back. And and then and then one teacher could see the recordings of another teacher, for example, because it's still in their account.
Yeah.
Because then when a tutor is replaced, because it's a marketplace, so teachers are changing. It was really a mess. At the same time, from a student perspective, they are just getting different Zoom links every day.
And that's all that setting up separate Zoom rooms like that is
Yeah.
so much effort. That's a lot of
So
work.
there is no university. There was no place for them to go. So we have an edutech version for E2M,
Mm.
where you actually log into the university. You have your resources, you have your papers, you have your assignments, and then automatically you get your classes. And when you click that, Zoom automatically starts. It automatically gets assigned.
Mm.
Similarly, when we were doing this, for example, uh, event that we are doing, when we click, just to let our participants know that the agenda link that you clicked was the same link we clicked, right, Amy? Like what we
Yeah.
clicked, but you went to attendees and we went to speakers.
Mm.
So there's an automatic license assignment, and what it does is that a single license can be officially shared. So legally, one Zoom, every license should be for one person, a named person. But
Yes.
because we have the ISV partnership, what happens is that you can actually share licenses automatically. So, if you're doing a webinar, you do the webinar, and then you revoke that license and automatically assign that to somebody else. You when the meeting finishes, the same license can be assigned to another host
I see.
automatically.
Or another teacher in that
Yeah,
situation. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So this is huge. This
Yeah.
is huge for Zoom. And bear in mind that we have some customers with thousands of hosts and licenses, because what they want is, when they're using us as a community over the year, every attendee is also a speaker.
Yes.
Because it's like the blog, right? So we allow every attendee to do a one tap session start when they're having a community. Now, in that case, if you have 10,000 employees, if you're a medium sized company and you have 10,000 employees, you know of course, you cannot manage it manually, but again, you don't want to incur
Mm,
10,000 licenses.
mm,
What you want is it should be only for as many sessions that are there. So
absolutely.
it's a hugely efficient way of doing it. And being a Zoom ISV partner, we have the ability to design. And for the customers, it's seamless.
Yeah,
They just pay the per user based license fee for the community version or for the event license.
yeah.
Now, they don't need to bother whether what is the webinar cost, what is the E2M cost, what is the meeting cost, how much does it cost when two people do one to one. It's all taken care of.
E2M takes care of all of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, you don't have to enter a contract with Zoom. It's all part of that, and because we pay Zoom,
It's a
we have a
package.
contract with Zoom. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a great package.
So this is what you see. Just to summarize how we structure. You can have Zoom on the web, right? Which is which is as an SDK, and then as you can see, we have beautiful web experiences.
Mm.
You can have on the desktop, not only as a standard Zoom app, but if you're using a community one, then you can even have it branded. So you would have Acme Inc. desktop app or Acme Inc. mobile app, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, you can do that with automatic licensing and provisioning.
that's
So I
great.
think we're almost on time,
Yes.
Amy. I've done a good job this time of being on time. So any thoughts? Any thoughts on what you see? How?
I think
Uh,
it's super interesting, and it's just a really really exciting time, and to be able to really replicate the in-person events that we've all been to and we all get so much from, to be able to do that virtually and to be able to communicate with people across the world seamlessly and not have to worry about different licenses and different kind of
yeah.
the logistics of it. To have that all taken care of is the dream. I think.
Yeah, and one thing to add is that whenever you talk about enterprise, we get customers who also come with their own contracts with Zoom, where they have certain security policies, etc. So again, we've done that where we can inherit that, or we can entirely use their. If they want, they can add their account.
Oh,
So
I see. Yeah,
so if they have a special arrangement in terms of security that they want to maintain, they can easily add that as well.
I see.
Um,
Yeah,
I mean, Hush Blackwell is a great example. They even gave us a video testimonial which we are going to release shortly on our homepage.
yeah,
So it's hugely popular.
yeah.
Uh,
It's fantastic.
yeah. And then with that, what I would do is that we are opening up in a minute a roundtable again on Zoom. So if people go back to the agenda, you would see that there's a roundtable on the web. So where they came from, right? If,
Sure.
if you go back, um, you will see the next one is actually live. So what we would do is that we would jump. I would encourage, for one-to-one questions and discussions, please click on, if you close this session, then if you go back to the screen behind you, you will see that you can click on the round table, and Amy and I would join you there, and um, we can discuss anything that comes to your mind,
Absolutely. Well,
including your winning teams.
yeah, and it'll be great to jump in and see exactly how the roundtables work, how they look,
Yeah,
and we can take any of your questions. But no, it's been
absolutely.
really, really interesting to speak to you with all of your experience and everything that kind of you learned over the last year. It's great, and it's a really exciting time. Thank you, Sid.
Yeah, thank you. And please do join us in the roundtable from the agenda tab at the back. Please do click on live sessions. You'll get the agenda, and please meet us there. So see you in few seconds.
We'll
Thank you.
see you in there. Thank
Yeah.
you.